Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good,
This is
good.
very exciting to meet you.
Well, excited to meet you as well. Thank you. And I'm using my cell phone, so because it would have taken too long to try to figure out how to do it on the station computer. So I hope that works out okay.
It's okay. It's fine. But anyway, I have some questions for you, and But first, I wanted to wanted to tell you a little bit about myself, so you can kind of get familiar with who I am.
Okay.
Okay. Like I said in the email, I'm from Florence High School,
Okay.
and of course I do stuff with the school news, and I've really kind of had a really the past couple of years especially really gotten a passion to want to go into broadcast journalism.
Very good. Very good.
And I watch especially WLBT. WLBT is my favorite, and I watch it whenever I can.
Well, thank you. We're certainly glad to hear that.
I always look forward to watching y'all.
Thank you.
Um, anyway, but anyway, so I have some questions for you, and
Okay.
and by the way, I am so thankful that y'all took some time out of your day to do this. This really meant the world. It really meant a lot to me. So
Well, it's we're honored to do it and honored to have you ask us to do it. That's so. I'm happy to help any way I can. I hope I'll be able to answer your questions to your satisfaction and effectively.
right. Uh, so what for my first question is when you were going into the how and what was your motivations into going into the field?
Be honest with you, for all intents and purposes, I had initially planned on being, going into law and being a lawyer. But we already have one lawyer and judge in the family, so I think that's plenty. But way back when, there was a famous journalist and CBS anchorman named Walter Cronkite, and I was a huge fan of his, even as a kid. Because I suppose the things that he covered, he covered some very momentous occasions in United States history, and became one of the most trusted men. Period. During his era in the United States, people even referred to him as Uncle Walt, and so he that was an early role model, and the events. I was an avid consumer of news as a young person, and I felt like that would be something I would really like to pursue, and eventually, here I am.
Well, for me, it was like, and I told Marshall Ramsey this. I come from a family where especially the men in the family, a lot of them are like these, manual labor trades. You go into that kind of thing. That
Nothing wrong with that.
and no problem with that. That's what I'm saying
Yeah.
is that I come from a family with a lot of them. But what I was trying to say is that there was a lot of people who were very interested in sports and everything, and I never was really interested, and I've always had kind of issues with like I guess you could say coordination and just I always kind of had issues that other people in the family did not. And so
Okay.
I've always been more interested in more of the arts, and I did theater for a while, and that's what I wanted to do. But ultimately got involved in my broadcasting class at the school, and I really started to have a love for that. And like I said in that along with I do speaker tournament. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's with the Southern Baptist Convention.
Oh wow, no, I'm not familiar with that.
Okay,
I'm ashamed to say.
I did a speech. You could bring a speech to competition, and I placed fourth in the state of Mississippi with a scholarship, and I got a scholarship to MC.
Wow, congratulations! That's awesome. Very good.
You pick a topic, and you pick a topic, and it's a Christian-based speech, and you pick a topic, and you basically, it's not necessarily a sermon, but it's just more of you preaching. You are speaking on the topic
Sure.
of whatever. Like for instance, my topic was, "Are the Ten Commandments relevant today?" Was my topic.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah.
So anyway, I've done a lot of speaking stuff, and I've done a lot of. I like to write, and I'm also big into current events and politics and everything. So a lot of that all comes together, kind of in journalism. So that's kind of what my interest has been, and I also love media. We're doing media type stuff. And I've kind of, like I said, with my broadcasting class, I've really kind of started with working kind of at least, to a very small scale or kind of getting used to some basic things. But
well, that's great. It's never too early to start to practice. Are you with the excuse me, the schools? Does the school have a broadcast set up?
Yes, we have a school news, and we also, me and a friend of mine, do kind of like a little bit of a show too, where it's called, me and him are both big movie people, and we do a show called Back to the Movies. Of course, is a play on Back to the Future, but basically we do movie reviews and news, and we have a lot of gimmicks and just have a lot of fun with it. And so we do that in addition to the school news. We haven't been able to do as much this year because of COVID, but I hope that we'll be able to get back to it soon. We've actually started Back to the Movies back up, but we're going to have to wait probably till January until there's actually more stuff happening. Anyway, it's been interesting for sure, but we've been doing a lot of more different projects and stuff. But anyway, that was just, and so I've really especially over the past couple of years, I've really gotten serious about doing broadcast journalism. And I've been wanting, with that, I've been watching y'all a lot.
We're glad to hear that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So you already kind of answered my second question, and that was, who was your biggest inspiration for this?
I'll have to point to Cronkite. Yeah, he was a big inspiration. There are others, but growing up in the time period that I did, with all that was going on in the United States at the time, he was the guy who was guiding us through all this. The space flights, the assassinations, the civil unrest, the war in Vietnam, all kinds of major events were going on. And this was the guy we trusted, to give us fact-based information. Where are you looking to be a street reporter? In terms of broadcast journalism, the industry is changing. It's morphing rapidly as we speak because of social media and a lot of things. Whereas when I first started, it was in-depth reporting. A lot of times things or information is passed along in tweets, Instagram, Facebook, what have you. It's a Snapchat or whatever. But we have to make sure that we give a full accounting of the events that we report on. So I'm just wondering, are you looking at being a reporter?
Yes, I would love. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, I'm a multimedia journalist.
Yes, that's what I want to do, and I would love. My hope is that WLBT is the one that I want to work for. I hope. So I would love that. That would be my dream, is to work over where y'all are.
Well, that's super. You can do it. Just set your sights right now and make it happen. You can do it, and I'll help any way I can. You seem like a bright young man, and with a vision and determination, and those are some key factors in getting where you want to be in life.
Yes. Okay. So that's a good segue into the next question. How and when can I start out, as far as what is the process of really starting out, and I guess starting out and trying to get a job in broadcast media, broadcast journalism?
Well, the traditional steps, of course, getting your education, furthering your education and with an emphasis on journalism, if that's indeed what you plan to pursue, and then what you're doing now, shadowing. I know I used to bug the heck out of folks when I was about your age, and go hang around pre-COVID, of course, and go hang around stations and watch what they were doing and try my hand at speaking into a recorder and seeing how it sounds. My first venture into it was in radio. And so I transitioned from radio back in the late 70s because someone in television heard my work in radio in South Carolina. So this gentleman asked if I would be interested in doing some television work in North Carolina. And, I had to think about it for a millisecond and I said, yeah, sure. And so I got a chance to learn. Back then film was just about out and we were just starting with, videotape. And I got a chance to shoot my own stories and do my own interviews and do the stand-ups with the light kits and all that kind of stuff. It was a whole lot more cumbersome back then. Now everything is digitized and miniature. Back then we had to carry a golf cart full of equipment, an audio, recording deck, light kits, just all kinds of things, So it's a lot easier to do it now. You can file reports with your cell phone. Basically, the quality is that good.
Yeah.
But I digress.
I always say, well, there's two things that you just said. That one thing is that I would love, this is something I would love to do, maybe in college or whatever, when all this COVID stuff is hopefully gone. I would love to be able to go visit the studio.
We'd love to have you. Right now, we are not allowing anyone in the building because of COVID, and there have been some cases, here reported at the station, and so out of an abundance of caution and concern, we have stopped allowing guests in the studio and in the station. Before, it was standard op to have young folks like you come in, sit with us at the desk, come out in the studio, on the set, and what have you. And I mean, we're even limited on the number of in-person interviews we can do in-house. If you notice, a lot of our interviews are now just like this, via Zoom and other means.
Yeah, so, I've seen when I've watched y'all that mostly it's kind of funny. Well, not really funny, but I'm like I've seen that there's been some interviews, like I think Maggie Wade has done some with the mayor of Jackson on Zoom a lot.
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
Then you have, I just watched something the other day of Courtney Ann Jackson doing a sit down in-person interview with Tate Reeves. So it just, correct. I guess it just depends on what the people feel comfortable with. What does that, is that mainly what it is? What they feel comfortable
with? Yeah, and the interviewee sometimes dictates that as well. Perhaps in that interview, the governor preferred in person, but if you notice, they were socially distanced.
Yes.
And I think coming in, both were wearing masks. Whether they, took them off or not, I'm not sure. I've done one recently with a gentleman named Bill Blair, who was, as he called it, a guinea pig for the Pfizer COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
And he preferred doing it in person. So we both wore masks, and I was sitting a good distance from him. And, we put a lavalier microphone on him, and we discussed, had the interview, both of us wearing masks. So it can be done. I like to be as cautious as possible because I'm at that age where it might be difficult for me to, recover from it. So
I completely understand that. I was just kind of asking about how did, I guess it just depends on what that person prefers or what they're comfortable with or whatever.
Yeah.
And that I have seen the majority of them have been Zoom.
Yes.
Things, but I have seen some sit downs, and of course y'all still do. Some of y'all have still done press conferences and stuff like Governor Reeves's press conferences. And that's something I want to do on a side note here. I want to ask you. So, how does the press conference work as far as press conferences? Who do they like? How who what is the process of who goes to the press conference or who doesn't? Because I hear you say like the one I listened to the other day. I think it was like the first two people who were called was Scott Simmons at WABT, and they had Courtney Jackson at LBT. And so it was like, I guess they send certain people who are designated to go to those type things, or
well, typically it's in the reporter's beat. Courtney Ann Jackson has our government beat. That is her, area of coverage and her expertise. So a lot of anything involving state government, she typically is the one who will cover that. So she's assigned to that. Occasionally, if she's out of pocket, we will have another reporter like CJ LeMaster who will go and cover those assignments. But typically, we try to keep things of that sort within the beat area of the reporter.
Yeah, and I have noticed that when I watch Courtney Ann Jackson, I have noticed that she does a lot of stuff at the Capitol and a lot of stuff with press conferences and everything else.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm having to get up. I'm going to have to get a charger, but we can still talk as I get a charger.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, my other phone was just ringing there, so no problem. We'll work it out.
Okay. But anyway, so I think that's interesting. And later on in this, I think it'd be better if we go ahead and ask about interviewing. What is the process to get interviews done?
You mean to have them set up, or?
Yeah, set up and get them into action, I guess you could say.
Well, still the best investigative tool is still what we're using right now, and that's the telephone. I love doing conversations, on the phone and reaching out to people. And of course, email is another source, and again, social media. I've secured interviews via social media, Twitter, for instance, in getting an interview with Dr. Ashish Jha regarding COVID-19 and the impact on Mississippi. So, yeah, just pick up the phone and call. Hey, I'd like to do an interview. Are you available? And they'll ask you what questions you might want to ask. You can either tell them, the questions you want, or just give them the subject matter, the area of concern that you'd like to discuss. And generally, people will work with you on that.
Yes. And I have heard, because before we were assigned job shadowing, I had a conversation with, you familiar with Cecil Hannibal on WAPT? You heard his name?
Cecil. I'm embarrassed to say I'm not really familiar with that name.
Okay. I think he just started out, but
okay.
He talked to me, and he was talking about that too, that he said that when you common misconception of sometimes about journalists is that what a lot of it getting in front of camera and talking is a small part of the job compared to some other things about being a lot of it, he said, is a desk job of you trying to do stuff on the computer, type up articles, schedule interviews.
Oh, that's correct.
Stuff
that's
like
correct.
that.
There's so much more. I don't just go and sit down at the anchor's desk and read. A lot of what I read, I wrote or rewrote, and a lot of the stories I generate as well. Coming up with stories, and that's our responsibility. And I was out in the field a lot more in the earlier years. But yeah, we there's a lot that goes into putting that final product on the air that you flip on the remote and watch.
But the thing is about the news. It is pretty, a lot of times we just think about what's on TV, but at the same time, it is, if you really think about it, it has to go. You have to do. There's a lot more to it than it has to be a lot more to it.
Oh goodness, yes. And the workflow is different now. There's a whole lot different workflow. We are required also to edit the things that we put on the air, so that you have to have editing skills.
Yes, and I've already started on working on that.
Yes, yes, that's a good skill to have. You have to be computer savvy these days. Old guys like me are trying to still keep up, but we do okay.
But so when you edit your own footage, is it footage or you're editing?
Yeah, it's video that's now on a chip. Once upon a time, it was on a little cartridges, 3/4 cartridges. You know those old VHS. It was kind of like VHS tapes. You probably are too young to even remember
I'm
those.
familiar with VHS tapes.
Yeah, but they're now it's all on a tiny little chip in in the camera that you record the sound and the video on, and then plug it into an adapter in the computer and download it. And we have a system called Edius that we use to edit our stories. And you put it on what we call a timeline and drop in the sound. There's a separate audio booth after we write our stories. That's another thing. You have to pick out sound bites, edit your story in a way that is understandable and concise, because unlike news print, we generally only have 90 seconds to maybe 2 minutes to tell the story. So you have to get the meat of the story in there, pick short, concise sound bites and short declarative sentences, which means that you don't use so many ands, ors, and buts, conjunctions. Kind of delete the conjunctions and do short declarative sentences. And that way, our consultants say that the average attention span of the average viewer is 90 seconds or less. So that's who we're catering to make sure that they get proper information.
Yes, and we already do footage. We use our school pays for it. We use Final Cut Pro, if you're familiar.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We use Final Cut Pro, and we use SD cards in our cameras, and we put them onto our laptops like I'm using right now. And
there you go. And I said chip, but that's what I meant. A card. Yeah, it's a tiny little card.
Y'all use SD card or something else?
I think it's like an SD card, but it may be an SD card. I don't use we still have photographers, and the MMJs use those, but it's an SD card, essentially.
And this is another thing. So when y'all go and either one, it's either, I guess you could say, on the field, or two, y'all have the people who film y'all, as far as if you're reporting or if you're being a news anchor. You have people who film y'all, and then y'all take the card, I guess, from the camera and edit the footage, right?
Correct. Yeah, you have to download the card into the computer. We have desktops that have ports. There's a separate device that we can plug in, and you plug that card into the port and download it into the computer, and then edit. And that's where that Edius system comes in.
All right. And I'm glad, because that was another one of my questions earlier on. I think we're going ahead of ourselves, which is good.
All right. That's okay.
All right. So another thing is, so we talked about how the original question I just asked you was, how and when can I start out? So basically saying, what is the process of getting hired if I want to apply for, just say I'm fresh out of college, I got a communications degree with the emphasis on journalism, I'm ready to go. What is required, and what is the process in getting me to a job that I want to apply for?
First off, I would highly recommend that you start while you're still in college. You start putting feelers out there. The terminology feeler, what that means, right? Getting feelers means getting a resume together, start making calls in advance, and checking online to see who's hiring and who's not, and what kind of availabilities there are. I would do that in my senior year, in college. And what you do, you have to have what news directors want to see is a resume. I say tape, but now you can download it to YouTube, and they will access it through YouTube. but put together a reel of the stories that you did, stand-ups, and mix in a little time at the anchor desk even. And most colleges now have that capability. I know Mississippi State has a great program.
Well, like I said,
college as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've watched MC's news, and they seem to be really good.
Oh, they are. They're quite good. Yeah, they've got a wonderful program.
Yeah,
I even took courses out there years ago, and they have really upgraded their program, and I think you would do really well going to school there. And Maggie Wade's going to tell you all about that. She just got her. You probably
saw that. Yeah. I'm going to really, when I go on the interview with her, I really want to go come in there and say congratulations.
Yeah. She deserves it, and I'm so glad to see that it finally came together after all these years. And there was just, she was lacking only 9 hours, which is just crazy. So I'm glad it finally came together for her.
Yes, I know she's probably still reeling from that even today.
Oh yeah. That was a great setup. She had no idea. They just had it set up perfectly and completely surprised her, and we're so happy for her.
So who was the people over there? Because it was, I know you and Barbie Batsett was there, but who else was there? Was it anyone else?
The administrators, and then our photographers, Jerome Deloach and Mike Evans, the chief photographer. So we had it pretty well documented.
Yeah, but as far as the people on screen people, it was mainly you and Barbie Batsett.
And Barbie. That's right. Yeah. Just
like I said, I actually sent an email to Barbie Batsett, and I wasn't able to get in contact with her, but I'm going to catch her at one of those blood drive things.
There you go. Absolutely.
So anyway, but that was
just back to your question again. I would recommend though that you start seeking out employment well before you graduate. You need to find out what is available, and you need to have a good resume put together, and that includes not only a resume on paper but a video resume. And you upload it to YouTube, and then you start shopping it around. Are you pretty much firm on being on camera, or are you interested in off camera as well?
I would like to do on camera. What you guys do? And I have seen people's Cecil Hannibal called it a highlight reel.
It's been referred to as that as well.
So he said, I know that's a sports thing, but he said it's basically the same thing. But highlight reel. But anyway, so what goes into that? I know that there's internships offered that can get you experience. There's an actual college. So what counts? I have looked at when y'all put up job offers on the internet. I've literally gone on there, not of course not to apply, but just to look at what they say on the actual application thing. And I looked at it, and it said you needed 2+ years of experience. So does that mean you're working college and internships?
It can be. It depends on what your product looks like. To be quite frank about it, and I was going to say it's a tough thing to get that first job because of the requirement for experience. And I've been there and done that. Trust me, when I first started out, I've got a drawer full of thanks but no thanks type replies. But eventually, they saw what I could do, and one thing led to the next. So it's going to seem like a daunting task initially, but the key to success is determination. You have to be determined, and it sounds like that's what you want to do. So you have to say, okay, here's what I want to do, and make the necessary adjustments, and find out what it is that the potential employer is looking for in his or her on-air talent. See if we can finish out.
Okay. All right. This one last thing about one last thing. was
Okay.
one last thing about what we were talking about. Then I have a couple more questions. Sorry.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
That's
What about, of course, pre-COVID? How have internships worked as far as translating to jobs?
It's worked quite well. We have hired some interns over the years who worked out really well. As a matter of fact, we still have some. I think we still have some employees who started out here as interns, and there are some who have gone on to do big things. Oh, now I got a little battery. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can still hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, now I got a little battery. But yeah, the internship I think is a wonderful entryway into getting into the profession. So that's that's a route to pursue, and it can still be done. We're going to get through this COVID thing. It's just going to take a little time and cooperation there.
I think
we'll
so. But
yeah.
I was just saying internships might be, as far as, just say, I'm hypothetically speaking, if I were just say, if I were got the opportunity to intern at WLBT and they wanted me, and just say that would probably, the fact that they see what they see what I'm doing, what I'm doing and everything, that would probably be more of an easier implication if they wanted me for a job. It would be an easier implication to see what I've already can do versus somebody you've only seen a highlight reel for, and you have to judge.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Nothing's better than in person and up close and personal. To understand what someone's capabilities. We've had people who had a wonderful highlight reel, as you can call it, and got here and they really weren't up to snuff. They couldn't really do the job. So it just depends. And it's always good to have an internship. That way you can decide, after being involved firsthand, rather than what you think it's going to be, you can decide if that's what you really want to do. And you may get here and decide, oh my God, what am I thinking? I want to go in another direction. Maybe I want to do entertainment news or something. I don't know. Well, it's good to have that experience. Internships are valuable, so valuable.
And the next thing was, this is a more basic question. What are the hours for the morning and evening shifts, as far as like how do they work? There's different. I heard that there's 2 shifts. As far as that, and what are the times for that? I know sometimes they don't actually always end up being the same thing every time, but what are the times for you go in, you go out on each shift?
Yeah, it's for us, Maggie and me. We are in the evening, and it starts about 2:00. Matter of fact, we got a 2:00 afternoon editorial meeting coming up, and then get off at about 11. Post 10:30 newscast. The morning crew, I think they typically get in at about 3 a.m. and go through, I believe, noon. I think that's what they're, or 11 o'clock.
Well, yeah, Cecil Hannibal told me that he's a weekend night shift person. So he said his schedule is that he goes in, he has Monday and Tuesday off for sure. Like that, Monday and Tuesday is his for sure days off. And then he says he says from Wednesday through Sunday, he does the news from 1 to 11.
Right. I had that shift one time in Dallas, Texas at KDFW TV, a CBS affiliate, and I was the weekend anchor, and I worked Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday reporting, and then on Saturday and Sunday I was the weekend anchor. And at one point when I got the job back here, I was doing that and anchoring here in Jackson on Monday and Tuesday. So it was 7 days a week for a few months there, but it's all part of it. Yeah, it's a good thing.
So I know this is a question that when I asked some others this, they kind of just said it really just depends. But what is the day in the life of Howard Ballou?
and that is the correct answer. It depends. It really does. There could be some breaking news, and I have to go out and do a live shot, or there could be a day where absolutely, nothing is going on and we're having to scrape to find something to fill the newscasts. But that's very rare, trust me. And, it's again, really depends on what is happening on any given day. There could be, a plane crash, and they would want Howard Ballou out there live to cover that plane crash. I have gone out and done interviews, but primarily anchoring the 4:35, 6, and 10 o'clock newscasts. A lot of my time is devoted to honing those newscasts and making sure that what I read on air is understandable and accurate and correct. And then, of course, I'm generating stories as well. I'm not always out in the field holding the microphone and putting together packages. We do what we call VOs. That's a voiceover. Sound bites, what we call SOTs. And then there are copy stories, and then stories with only graphics. So we call those graphics based stories. So I'm doing a lot of typing, a lot of writing, a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails. And then at the same time, we are required to be very active in social media. So I have to promote what we're doing by posting stories on Facebook, tweeting out, things that are coming up, even Instagram. Occasionally I'll use Snapchat.
But I have seen, and it's kind of funny how different people I've seen. Of course, I'm not much. I hadn't been on many social media. I'm not really on. I'm not really on many of them, but I have seen Facebook how different people on WLBT do different things. They use their social media account differently than some others.
Correct. Absolutely.
You and Maggie Wade seem to be more like posting more like story-based things, maybe something, a special occasion every once in a while. Then you have Barbie Batson, who likes to mess around and do personal video messages and all kinds of stuff.
She has a lot of fun with it. She really does. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen some of the stuff she does, and it's kind of funny.
But I know you got humor.
But I only have just a couple more, if you don't mind. I know you got to go to a meeting.
The meeting's coming up in about 7 minutes. So
okay, I won't keep you long. I just got probably 2 more questions.
Okay, go ahead.
The next question is, what is the process of getting a story to publication, as far as getting from the point you're assigned it to the point you're writing it and publishing it on the website and all that fun stuff? What is that process of getting a story out there?
Well, you get the assignment, you do the interviews, and then you come back and take those interviews and write a story around them. And the story, after you write it, is then edited, and it is what we call attached. I'd love for you to be here so I can show you how that works. But it is attached from Edius that I was telling you about, that editing system, to the various newscasts. And now our newscasts are handled by what we call TMPs. And I think it's a technical mechanical producer. I believe that's what it stands for. But the cameras, there's no longer a cameraman in the studio. It's all robotics. And a producer handles the audio, and the TMP handles the cameras. Everything is, changing and morphing rapidly, but it starts with your assignment. We have afternoon editorial meetings like I'm about to go to. You receive your assignment, you go out and shoot the interviews, and then come back and write the story, then edit the story, and then attach the story for on air. And after that, you take that story and put it onto our website in a system that we have designed for that. And we have our digital team, which takes that story and then puts it out there so you can click on our website and see that story.
Yeah, like I said, once all this COVID stuff goes away, hopefully, I really would love to go up to the studio. And
we'd love to have
I would love to be able to meet y'all in person and be able one day and be able to see what some of y'all do in person. That would be great.
We're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to it.
I will definitely try. The last question I want to talk about is what is the qualities of a good journalist to you? Basically, what is your last pardoning advice, and what do you think is the qualities of a good journalist?
A good journalist is a good listener. A good journalist is curious. A good journalist asks questions, and you don't just take one source. You use multiple sources to vet the information that you're gathering, and be sure to, again, be curious. Don't just accept everything that you hear as, gospel truth. You have to investigate and make sure that that is the truth that you're putting out there, because we're on a mission. We're missionaries of truth, if you will. So that is what we do, and it is a very large task that I don't take lightly, because you have to have credibility and integrity, and those are the good qualities of a good journalist.
Well, thank you. I'm so thankful that you took you took some time out of your day to talk with me. That meant a lot. I'm very much look up to you, and I'm glad I've really enjoyed this conversation.
You're very kind, and I enjoyed chatting with you, and I wish I had more time, but we're about to get started on that meeting.
Okay,
and,
well,
yeah.
Hopefully I will see you on the news tonight.
Looking forward to it. Thank you. And let me know what you think of our news content, our stories.
All right.
All right, Elijah, it was certainly a joy speaking with you and meeting you, and looking forward to shaking your hand one day.
All right. Well, I'll see you then.
Yeah, okay. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.